know it's a special day here on Bring It In, TrueHoop's little Zoom quarantine show. We just learned that if you're like in an aisle of Home Depot near David Thorpe not wearing your mask, what he will say.
Oh yeah, you're a loser bird. Yep. Yeah,
Loser
that's the
bird.
truth. My wife is at Publix right now, and there's an old lady not wearing a mask, and she's just like, "What the hell's going on?" Wear a mask, people, for crying out loud. We're not seeing my parents tonight, Henry. My wife just said, should we have dinner with them outside? And they're so close to getting a vaccine. I don't want to take any chances right now. Let's just wait till they get their vaccine at this point. We don't know yet about this strain. We don't think it's in our county yet. We're not sure. We just got to lay low right now until it's settled,
Yeah, or just get it like I did, and then you worry down a little.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it, but we did practice a one house herd conspiracy thing right here, herd immunity here. Right? It's great. Don't do it, people. That's not what I recommend. Okay, so let's see. I think we'll fail, but let's see if we can go an hour without using the phrase seditious conspiracy. You think we can do that?
Well, we already failed.
Wow, from now on.
Starting now. Yes. There's lots to talk about without even getting into that, but we can hint around it.
Okay, let's start with the Golden State Warriors. You have watched closely. You have deep thoughts. Let's go. Dude, you're not helping.
They somehow managed to win last night when Curry had his worst ever game, and I'm writing about them right now. We'll hopefully publish it probably tomorrow. Like their second unit is a bunch of second round picks and undrafted players and guys that were in France 2 weeks ago or whatever. Like it's really cool to see Steve Kerr feeling some joy. And he said this last night after they won, like he said, well, we don't have Durant and Klay Thompson, so now we look like just a regular NBA team, a standard. He used the word standard. And there's a lot to that. He had Curry and Thompson's just an amazing shooter, and Durant, right? And Draymond is this incredible, Swiss Army knife kind of guy. And he acknowledges that was a super team. Like, you'll never coach a team like that again, right? No one may ever coach a team like that again in our lifetimes. And now he has more of a standard team where, you have some undrafted players, and I write this in my piece that you haven't seen yet. Their last bench unit had Sean Livingston, former number 3 pick, clear Hall of Fame talent who blew his knee out, but still had the mind to control a team, and Andre Iguodala off the bench. Now he's got Brad Wanamaker and Damian Lee, who didn't even enter the league until the late 20s, and they're finding ways. They're 6-4. Remember, they were 0-2 by, I think they lost 2 games by 811 points.
Yeah.
So when you lose that badly, and now they're 6-4, they're obviously 6-2 since then. There's something happening in Golden State. They're not contenders yet, but maybe they won't be. But it's fun to see, and it's a sign of the franchise is figuring it out, even if they haven't done a great job of collecting talent. Steve Kerr and Draymond and Steph have put together a hell of a unit. They really have.
I guess we should get our rolling James Wiseman update.
I mean, he's averaging 11 and 6. The quote I got from that I'm putting the piece, Kerr said after one of his last 2 games, he doesn't know up from down. So that's pretty indicative of what Steve Kerr laughed when he said, some of our guys have played, hundreds and hundreds of important games. James Wiseman's played 12 since high school. Total, right? So it's a steep curve, and this game is so hard. So he's doing fine. He's, they don't finish games with him. They're going really small. They're playing, of course, Draymond at 5, but they've even some lineups with Eric Pascal at 5. He's built like a more athletic PJ Tucker, but he's only 24, second round pick. And so
it seems to, I honestly think he's like, I like seeing a huge man trying to guard me. Like, he gets excited about it.
Because he's big and strong enough to do it. He's really good. I give them great credit. Second round pick they developed, Draymond being the first, who's really got a chance to be a very good player. And he fits their team. They need scoring in the second unit. He can do that. So they're not the Lakers and the Clippers. But
when you were first writing your James Wiseman story before the draft, one of the points was the Warriors are just a tiny team.
Yeah.
Right. And and there were some passing references of Eric Paschal, who's 6'6", whatever he is.
Yeah.
But what we didn't I didn't appreciate then, maybe you did, but like he's playing center, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not that big, but he actually is effective enough at that position, that's news to me.
Yeah, it's they were just a small team, and Kelly Oubre, I think 7 for 50 or some crazy number. Like
Yeah.
they're nowhere close to being what they can be. You want to get there as fast as possible because at some point you kind of lose all your foundation if you're just not going to make the playoffs. And they want to play as many meaningful games as possible for the development of their young guys, Wiseman most importantly. But they're just, we should not forget about them, really, is the point. There's better teams in the West. The Nuggets are playing better. They're still figuring
They
stuff
played
out.
a team that had like 7 players or whatever, right? Like the Nuggets didn't really beat the 76ers.
Right. I mean, they're just they Jokic is incredible, just incredible. And remember, people were, I mean, they weren't just criticizing me, but they were in generally saying it's crazy for him to lose weight. When I suggested he should lose weight, they thought that was nuts. He looks like Porzingis. No, that's not true. He looks like Porzingis, who's been working out some. Right, he's a little bit bigger than Porzingis, but he's very thin and brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. He's a brilliant player.
Actually, your point. Let's skip ahead a little bit here, but with Steve Kerr having a regular roster and playing guys like Damian Lee, it seems like one of the lessons of this COVID time in the NBA is there are so many Tyrese Maxeys who can play who don't usually get to play.
Well, so now let's get to this. We'll talk about Maxey in a second. He was beyond amazing. You and I have debated very fairly and lovingly because I'm on your side with resting players and all of that. But I've argued that if we keep 82 games, I'd be fine with that. We should just have a limit, a built-in structural limit that you can't overplay your players so that the Tyrese Maxeys, who had 39 the other day, as a rookie who played 1 year in college, he's a terrific talent. Whoever thought would be a top 10, maybe top 8 pick, he fell to, I think, 16 or 18, whatever it was. And he normally doesn't get a chance to really play. So if you build these other things in place and let other guys actually play, you would have so much more talent developed, which to me would be a positive for basketball in general, especially when you go to an expansion team in 2 years. Because at some point, we're going to have 2 expansion teams, right? And you're going to have more guys that have clearly shown they can play, and you can't keep them all. But yeah, so this is one of the benefits of a terrible situation with the pandemic and injuries I know we'll get to, is other people get a chance to do their thing. And we know, historically speaking, like there's always players like, who is that guy? Oh, he's pretty good. Well, he didn't used to be, but how are you pretty good when you don't play? You got to play.
So it doesn't mean everybody can play. It just means that if you were to be teleported into an NBA locker room, let's say better yet on like a bus, and you walk up and down with the players on the bus, what you're going to find is there's like, some guy talking loud on a cell phone and someone's playing video games over here. But there's also going to be 3 or 4 characters in the back who are like depressed or seem depressed, who are just super down, right? This is Tyrese Maxey never getting to play for a year, right? And you're just like, God damn it. However old he is, he's probably only 19 or something now, right? But 19, yeah. but if he gets to be 24, like then he's just like, how is this ever going to come together? I mean, I guess we've talked about on the show before, and this is my Blazer fan coming through, but Harry Giles was the toast of the preseason, and basically won't play again. Like it'll take a miracle. He's moved up from 5th to 3rd center, right? Like great, But there's a bunch of players who just don't get to play. That's the argument that the expansion teams will be fine. Or honestly, one of my first NBA stories I ever really got excited about was Rajah Ball was playing in his dad's over 35 league at some Y in Florida, whatever kind of club it was, and then he was guarding Kobe Bryant in the finals like a month later. Like it's pretty flat, like the potential for someone to be good is it's after you get past your all-stars, like it's pretty flat.
That's what I've always, how I feel about that. Most of the players are about the same. That's why I think coaching is so important, and culture and all of that, because they're all about the same. If you take the same plant and give one to you, Mr. Green Thumb, and give one to me, Mr. Not Green Thumb, the grandchildren of your plant are going to be very happy. There'll be no grandchildren from my plant because he ain't going to make it, right? And so it's the same thing in basketball too. You got to develop your players, and you have to have a plan for them even when you're not playing them, but it'd be smart to find time for them. And I think it. I mean, Philadelphia. Would they have 7? Would they have 8 dressed, but only 7 could play? And Maxey scored 39 efficiently.
Yeah.
Can he do that every game? Of course not. If a team was really geared up for him, no, that would make a difference too. They don't even know who he is, basically. He does get in games, but he's not asked to play that role. But now that they know he can play that way, that's going to inform Doc Rivers going forward as he creates his strategies down the road. They're a team that, like, we talk about teams that have a chance, like the Sixers have a chance.
Well, my friend David Thorpe wrote a book called Basketball is Jazz, which talks about the concept of royal jelly, right? Which is, they gave Tyrese Maxey for one game, like, the ball and the focus, and like they're doing that is royal jelly, right? So this is the thing, is just like bing bong, like, if you have the magic food to make the superstars, give it to more players.
That's right. Exactly. Well, this is why it's so important to be drafted in the first round, because you get more chances. This is why it's better to be a second round than undrafted. And so, without going to name dropping, not naming people, but there are players when they come out of college, Henry, who are told on draft night, while it's happening, the tumult of draft night, the chaos of draft night, a team will say, hey, we'll draft you, but we need to stash you overseas for you. We have no roster for you. Stupid agents will say no. Their argument would be, we'll get drafted later on. Maybe they will, if they got a promise, which typically is not the case. Or we'd rather be a free agent and pick our team. You'd rather be drafted second round than undrafted, because at least there's some royal jelly as part of that. They did spend a pick on you. Mm-hmm. The worst place to be is in the desert where no one has ownership of you at all. And the problem is, for Harry Giles' sake, he's going to continue to hang around because he was the first round pick, right? And he was this great player coming out of high school. But he'll probably always bounce around as a minimum guy. No one's, unless 3 or 4 guys get hurt, no one's ever going to play him 20 minutes a game for 40 straight games and then realize, hey, this guy can really go. And so he'll be bouncing around minimum, unless he gets lucky because someone else got unlucky and got hurt, or 2 or 3 people got hurt, and now he'll suddenly play. I like Harry Giles. I think he's super talented.
Yeah. We should look at this. So we talked about, there have been a lot of serious injuries in addition to a lot of players held out for COVID protocols. There's a lot to talk about there. But we rattled off like Thomas Bryant, Markelle Fultz, Bogdanovich, etc. I was like, well, let me just find a list of people who are actually injured. And it's like, I mean, it just goes on and on. Actually, Judy, I think of the links in there, but like, I think I printed out a dozen pages of like just current injury. Like, just on the Hawks, Trae Young is probable for tonight. Bogdanovich is out with a knee. Rondo's out indefinitely with a knee. Gallinari's out through mid-January. Okongwu out indefinitely with a toe problem. Chris Dunn's out indefinitely with an ankle. That's one team. Like, it's just, this is a crazy a bunch of injuries right now. Doc Rivers made some pretty strong comments about how having to play everybody long minutes is going to cause them injuries going forward. Of course, he's right. But also just merely having the schedule set up this way, right, with this short training camp, a terrible year of training, and then 72 tightly packed games with travel and bad sleep, everything goes with it. This is what happens.
Well, and then they compounded their problem by actually not doing a G League, where you actually could move guys right up. If you really handle it the right way, your G League team is running your NBA team stuff so that they have a pretty good idea of play calls and terminology. And instead, we don't have that at all. In fact, the G League won't even be quarantining for another like 10 days, 12 days. And then they'll be in Orlando after that. So you can pull guys up at any point from there, but they should be doing it now. They should be concurrent. The schedule should have been concurrent. Teams don't do it.
I saw this very interesting. So David Weiss is the guy behind the scenes at the league office who has managed their COVID protocols. And I know David Weiss. He's a brilliant guy. He's a lawyer. But they're saying he got like a PhD behind the scenes this summer, and hats off to him. He designed the bubble that worked so well. And I've also interviewed like the people from the COVID testing companies, for instance, and they're like, these people we met with from the NBA are serious, and they like know the science, and they have hard questions, and they are not just taking our word for anything. So that's David Weiss and how he's running this. And all in all, like, I believe he knows way more than I know about the science of preventing the spread of the coronavirus. That said, he says in the New York Times today, the testing strategy we've implemented of 2 daily PCR tests creates a process that aims to identify an infected individual before they become infectious to others. Combined with our data that analyzes contact time and distance during on-court play, our experts believe that the game can safely proceed in these circumstances. Does that sound right to you?
What about you? You're the expert. You had it.
I just didn't. We've had some experts on this show about
Yeah.
testing and protocols. Like, I am not second guessing David Weiss here, but I'm saying this is news to me that you can test in advance of infectiousness and catch people before they're spreading. Maybe you can. You couldn't when we asked experts about it before.
You know, I'm not an expert in that. I do think that watching as many games as I do, if the NBA needs to do a better job of making sure players are masking in buses, locker rooms, and on the bench to prevent that spread. Like, we can't control everything, especially when they're home, whatever. But the idea of preventing the outbreak. We just had our first cancellation. Is that first cancellation since day one, I believe, or maybe day two? Yeah. Was yesterday, right? The Celtics game.
Well, they're postponements, I think, but yeah.
I meant postponed, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. It's great that we've only had 2, I think, total. Oklahoma City against Houston, maybe December 26th, and then this one. But we want to continue to prevent that, especially now that, like, we're 10 days away or so from serious people getting involved in the White House and in government who are going to roll out a far more aggressive vaccination program. The idea of getting all these vaccines is great. Disseminating them has been really a challenge. I heard someone talk the other day, like, we could have been spending months training people to administer the vaccine. We didn't do anything, but we'll start that very quickly. So the NBA doesn't want to be in a situation where they might have to scrap things for a few months. Instead, they want to be able to tread water until, most people have it. So they got to be super careful right now. This is why we're not seeing my parents, tonight. We're just trying to be super careful until my parents get vaccinated.
But see, I totally agree. Like, so what you're doing makes so much sense, was it just fewer events, fewer opportunities to spread the virus, right?
Yeah.
The NBA weirdly ramped it up. Like, this would be a perfect time for a 40-game season, right? If the Sixers maybe have some exposure and then play 4 teams in the next week, it's far trickier to contact trace and manage than if they play 1 team or 2 teams in the next week. But they did, because it takes a few days to have a positive test to know who you're quarantining, right? They made a schedule that was I think David Weiss is playing 3-dimensional chess, and I think he's good at it. I can't see all the pieces, but to me, in all the pieces of this, there's no argument I can see that player health versus the virus or versus soft tissue injuries or concussions or whatever is paramount. Like, you do not make a 72-game season condensed schedule if it's paramount just for soft tissue reasons, and you definitely don't pack all these games together for coronavirus reasons, right? Like, if health were first, you'd be back in the bubble, right? Or you'd cancel the whole thing. So we're already compromising. And to me, like, now they're popping up cases everywhere. I'm like, And that's where, okay, so then one of my questions I said and they didn't answer before the bubble was, what are the rules of when you shut it down, right? Or is it just like a call, like you see it kind of thing? And this is where Adam Silver, let me read the quote here. He said, before the season started, Adam Silver said, "The view is, I think, if we found a situation where our protocols weren't working, meaning that not only did we have some cases of COVID, but that we were witnessing spread either among teams or even possibly to another team, that would cause us to suspend the season." He continued, "I think we are prepared for isolated cases. In fact, based on what we've seen in the preseason, based on watching other leagues operate outside the bubble, unfortunately, it seems somewhat inevitable." So that sounds reasonable, but it's subjective as hell. We might be there, do we know we haven't had spread among teams or between teams?
I don't think so. How would you even know that? There's so much virus out there, and there's so little tracing, although they might be doing tracing. I think they are.
They are contact tracing, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, really, how do you really know whether you got it from your, your friend at home or a guy you played against the night before? If they both
I mean, they
got it.
can do the genotype of it, right? They can if you want to spend
Oh,
the
they
money, you
can.
can actually find out. Yeah.
They can do it that way. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, it's this is the time where we got to be thinking about their bodies. We got to care about people. We failed for so long in doing that. I
And that's
think
part of the
too.
trainers is the proof, right? I talked about it last time, but like the trainers are like, I haven't touched a body in weeks because they're too busy just managing 15-page emails from probably from David Weiss. If the trainers aren't even able to train, then this is not health first, right? Like,
No, right. I laugh at the whole bodies thing because if you train athletes as long as I have now, the veterans know how to take care of their bodies, right? They're getting lots of massages and they take stretching seriously. And even over the years, you would think, because I've been doing this with NBA guys since '03, uh, I used to think that they would look down upon things like yoga. I was 100% wrong. From day one, they loved the idea of yoga. Anything that made their bodies feel better and could also help prevent other injuries. And even the other day, my wife said to me, her son had she saw the receipt because we know what money he's spending because he and a teammate did an outdoor yoga. Great, spend all the money you want on yoga, my man. Like that, they get it. This is their temple in a sense, right? But they
but
can
they
only
can
do so
only
much,
like
huh?
they can't do like their traveling party is max 50, I think.
Is that what it's 50?
And I think I mean, there's some reporting like the yoga teacher didn't make it, right? Like
Yeah.
massage therapists, it's like, half the normal staff, right? Like, and on, like down the road, like these services are reduced, right? The trainer who would normally do some soft tissue manipulation or whatever doesn't touch you at all because he's
Yeah.
doing
No,
other,
that's
right? So,
that's one of the reasons why we're seeing more injuries. I'm sure. Like
right.
these people are not just doing pain relief; they're
Yeah.
injury prevention. And I've told this story before. I think even on our show, smart teams like OKC. Actually, it's not even just pro teams; it's college teams are doing this too now. They're doing mandatory days off, except to come in just for extra treatment. They'll bring in
Yeah.
people. This is in years past that normally aren't in the facility. You may do it on your own. They're bringing them into the building and like a spa day. And it sounds like these are privileged, whatever athletes. They are risking these bodies, these same bodies that want to pick up their children and hold their wife's hand and go to the park with their dog and whatever. They're risking all of that when they play. It's there's a reward for it. That's what the money's for. I get that. But we all enjoy watching them play. We
Yeah.
want their bodies to be healthy, and they're putting that at risk. And now that they can't do these other things, more guys are going to get hurt. The schedule
But
that you talked about, the fact that they're not being taken care of the same is a bad combination.
there's a level of care here that maybe most of us aren't used to, but like there are people who really understand our bodies way better than we do who watch you, right? So if you're doing like, in the pandemic, we're doing Zoom workouts with, freaking the Peloton woman or whatever, right? Like, and she can't see us, which is probably fine. Most of the time, that's fine.
Right.
But like before the pandemic, I was blessed to I had a bunch of problems. I was supposed to get surgery. I've written a little about this, but found this woman, Eileen. Eileen would notice way before I did. She'd be like, "Ooh, like, your left foot's turned out as you're doing your squat, right?" She's like a lady. She knows crazy. Actually, I'll tell you this little story. So, such an old man story. I have to watch television lying on the floor now, like aimed straight at the television. Why? Because I was having back pain. And I go, at the time I was going to the gym regularly, and I go to Eileen, I'm like, Eileen, every time I watch TV, I get this like friggin' like back pain. She's like, "Are you watching TV? Like turned at a weird angle," which our couch is at a weird angle of TV. And I'm basically like, "No, it's not that." Go for a month ignoring her, and it's like completely like clockwork. Eventually, I'm like, well, let me just try aiming straight at TV, and like magic, like back pain. And so like, Eileen, what did you see? And she was like, "I've been doing this for kind of a long time, Henry." Like, so my point is, NBA players employ people like Eileen who are watching like so and so who tore an ACL, like was probably showing signs of landing weird and having knees caving, whatever stuff's happening that it might have been correctable before the ACL tear, right? I don't know if that's happening now. Right? When trainers tell me that they're spending 20 hours a day not looking at players, that's bad, right? Like you want them to be noticing things that might lead to injury before that.
Yeah, it's probably an area that the average person just doesn't understand, but they should because they're expert in what they do for a living too, right?
Yeah.
You and I can watch a game. We can be in my gym and you'll watch a guy shoot, and I'll watch a guy shoot, and you'll see if he makes it or not. And maybe you'll notice something else. I'm going to see 35 things. I don't try to do it,
Right.
right? If I write an article and write something, I send it to you, you're going to see things I've never even imagined because this is what you do and you're an expert in that.
There's a zooming in that happens. Yeah.
Right. It's just automatic. It's not, it's just, this is the, what your lady said is what I had a player yesterday. We shot yesterday and a very, very good player. He's in the G League, but former draft pick. And I told him something and he looked at me so quizzically and said, how has no one ever said that to me before? I said, I don't know. I've been doing this a long time. This is what we say. I didn't think of it any other way. To me, it's not smart, not smart. It's just obvious to us. So to your exact point, I'm greatly relieved when players that I personally know and care about have on them eyes of an expert who are looking for these things because they can catch a problem before it gets worse.
Yeah.
Right. And the opposite is also true when they don't pay attention and now it suddenly grows into something severe.
Would you say it's a seditious conspiracy? Oh, it's
I do want to talk about the single greatest threat on American democracy since the Civil War, but I'd like
Lamelo Ball.
I'd like to talk about Lamelo Ball first. Yeah. So Lamelo had a triple double. He threatened.
You really went with that topic. That was great.
he threatened. He almost got it the other day. Then he got it. I think it was yesterday. And I'm the first guy. I never think that I know everything, and I'm happy to be proven wrong all the time. I have no pride. I just want to tell the truth as I see it. And Lamelo, I don't care about the triple double so much. He scored well, and this is, to me, he looks a lot like his brother. When he's not scoring and he's just passing and hustling, he looks like his brother, except his brother can really defend. And Lamelo cannot. I don't care. He's 19. I am not at all down on his defense. In Australia, he just didn't try. He's trying now. He just has trying to some degree. I don't love his transition D. He's lazy with that. I think he's just learning. I think this Lamelo Ball story, though, is the James Borrego story, the head coach. There were people who were very high on Lamelo who thought the Hornets should just hand the ball over to him. I thought that would be a tragic mistake because you're just playing into an already somewhat coddled player. James Borrego was coaching him and not handing the ball over to him. And I think it's really helping him hugely. Can he learn to score efficiently? He's shooting well now. He shoots it from pretty low in his body. I don't think players are reacting as well defensively as I think they will soon when they realize you get your hand up early and you're gonna bother him more a little bit. But he's a brilliant passer. He plays a beautiful game. He's hustling. He one touches and all that kind of stuff. Only thing I didn't like is late in the game to ice the game kind. If he bullied Trae Young, who's dealing with an ankle as you know, and played badly in the game, scored on him at the rim. This is 6'7" versus 5'9", 5'10", whatever. But still, it's a bucket. And then he did the little too low thing like LeBron did last week. I don't love that. Like Trae Young might get 65 on him next time they play. I don't think LaMelo needs that. Like, let your game speak for you right now. But still, whatever. That's not the biggest sin in the world. The Hornets are a nice story. Coach Borrego is doing a hell of a job.
Well, and Devontae Graham, and I'm totally blanking on
Terry Rozier is the other guard. PJ Washington inside.
PJ Washington. There are two players who had middling expectations who have blossomed under.
Yeah, he was a late lottery pick out of Kentucky. PJ was. He was very bad early on last year, like preseason. Maybe I don't remember if he played summer league. I don't think he did. But he's good. He's a good player. He's not great. He's kind of like Eric Pascal. He's 6'7" forward center, but he's good. They're playing inspired basketball. It's a long season. We've seen rookies have amazing starts and not do well. LaMelo's got a lot of gifts for sure. Let's just see if he continues to finish shots and make shots. But I would not have taken over Wiseman, but still, and they didn't. Obviously, Wiseman before him. It's encouraging if you're Charlotte.
I think there's when Sam Hinkie was running the Sixers, I felt like the clock was ticking. Like they had a certain amount of runway before people would get upset about it, right? I feel the same way with Lamelo coming off the bench. Like there's a certain amount of time before
Yeah.
LeVar or somebody is upset about this,
Well,
right? Do you
see,
agree?
if not, it's great. If not,
Yeah.
it's a success story. But you cannot mention Sam Hinkie to me and have me not think of my old favorite NBA player, because I have a new one now, in Jeremy Grant,
Of course, yeah.
who is, scoring 20 something a game. I watched him on film this weekend. And I say that because Sam drafted Jeremy. And I don't think Sam will get mad that I say this now. It's my single favorite description of how he feels about a player of all time. Okay. I asked him what he thought of Jeremy Grant. This was early in Jeremy's career. And he said, talk about a great kid. He's the kind of young man you want to be your son's best friend or marry your daughter. Like that. And so that's exactly what I do now when I describe players. I have a son and a daughter the same age. So if they're good enough to marry my daughter, be my son's best friend, that's the highest praise I can give. So this amazing person is now scoring 23, 24 a game. He's always been a role player. Detroit is playing well. They almost beat Utah. They were getting murdered by Utah and lost in the closing moments. Blake Griffin is just a big dude now. Like he just kind of bangs you down. He's nothing like Blake Griffin 2 years ago when he was third team All NBA. But they've got some young players that are playing inspired. Derrick Rose, he's not playing well this year metrically, but he's hustling his ass off. Last year, did he win Sixth Man of the Year? If he didn't, he came close. I forget. I don't follow words too much.
We're not really doing memory tests this year, David. That's not
I know that's true.
We're taking that off. Yeah.
But I love that Jeremy is like he might be an all-star this year.
And he kind of said he wanted to go play for like a black run team.
He said that?
He did. Yeah. I think it matters.
Oh, I love that. That makes me love him even more. Maybe he's just passed up Mikal Bridges, my favorite player in the league now. Bridges just had 30 plus this weekend. Yeah. He's going to win most improved player. Phoenix is 7-3. I think they're seventh in defense and ninth in offense or something like that. They're top 10 in both. Maybe they're in fifth in one of them. And Chris Paul's not playing great. They're playing great. DeAndre Ayton's not playing great. Dario Saric is former Sixer. Mm-hmm. Not numbers wise, metric wise. He's been a big influence there. Phoenix is second in the West right now.
I know.
They're great.
Actually, that brings up something. I would have put this in the document as we were planning the show if I'd remembered it, but it only occurred to me now. I heard an interesting thing about Chris Paul, which is that like what's great about him is he's particular and mouthy, right? Like if you're not doing the right thing, like he'll let you know. But what's not great about him, and it's getting worse with age, is it comes off as nagging, right? So they're like, this is why he's not in Oklahoma now, right? Is not that he wasn't great there, but that his voice was worn out there, right? And that like same thing in Houston, right? And then basically like the schedule is getting tighter, right? So first month, Chris Paul, oh, he's a great new leader who tell everyone he's the general, right? But maybe month 6 is just like shut up, man. Like it'd be interesting to see.
This is, I mean, you're a dad. He's a dad too. At some point, you got to ease up a little bit if you want, and this is to the point, if you want a long-term relationship. We want to be best friends with our kids when they're adults, right? So I think we should be mindful of that as we parent them. I don't think Chris Paul's thinking that way. Like he's not thinking about where am I going to be with DeAndre Ayton in 3 years or Devin Booker. Yeah. But he probably should be. He probably should be. You have to let them make mistakes on their own some and take some ownership of their own mistakes too. But whatever, they're 7-3, which means they're 15-3 in their last 18 games, going back to the Orlando bubble, which was just a few months ago, it seems, right? It was August. So they've done something pretty abruptly. Like they've been an about face. They're a legitimate team. I don't see them as a contender now. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm probably not wrong. It's probably Clippers, Lakers, and if there's a dark horse team, I don't even know if I'd have Phoenix in there yet. Denver and Utah to me are very intriguing. But right now it's Phoenix.
Yeah, it keeps going on. It's not like just a week, you know what I mean? Like
it's 15-3 in the last 18 games
they do have that. Like every time Devin Booker shoots, I'm like, it's probably going in.
What a marvelous player he is. Yeah, really, just really, really skilled, has great feel, better athlete than you think. He's a tremendous player.
We don't talk about it enough too. Like the skill level of shooting while guarded from distance in the NBA. Like I've been doing this for my whole adult life, and I'm telling you, what used to be considered a bad shot, it has completely changed. Right? Nobody wanted anyone in the league really, to take a contested three 10 years ago, 15 years ago, certainly. Right? It was just every time it was like, come sit down. That's a terrible shot. Now it's like, there are how many players who are legit just viciously effective shooting a well contested three?
I like to know the answer. How many are there? Because we still rather you be uncontested, of course.
Yeah.
There are exceptions. Booker might be one of them where, like, almost any shot's a good shot. I mean, there's certain spots I like better than others. I used to have a saying, you just can't foul. I still do. But there's some guys, I get why you'd foul them, because you just think, like Dirk was that way. You just expect him to make every shot.
There's a Damian Lillard, of course, comes up in this conversation. Even if
especially if we're talking to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if the host isn't a Blazers fan, but like they lost to the Bulls first. I think I'm right. What happens is Zach LaVine, who's does not have a great 3-point shooting percentage over in his career, but he's like sometimes good at this. He hits it like I don't know, 7 feet behind 3-point line, three, right? Kind of step back with some time on the clock. Then there's like a broken play, like the Blazers try to inbound the ball and something happens. So now they've used their play, right? They just set up an inbound play. It didn't work. And now they're going to inbound it again. And so Damian just books. It looks like he's going to curl around all these screens, but he just books straight to the far side of the court, away from the passer. And, they throw the pass to him. The defender's running to catch up. And then the way he does this, he catches the ball running away from the hoop and away from the pass, catches it, and then is legit like freaking, like it's a real deal fadeaway three. Cash. I'm like, what the hell, man? Nobody hit that shot. I'm telling you, I watched a lot of basketball before the last 10 years. Like, nobody hit that shot. Like, it just didn't happen. And now it's like, it didn't even make the highlights because the Blazers ended up losing the game. It was just like a nothing moment of NBA. But like, what the hell? It's so hard. You do that in your pickup game, then you play the ball again. Like,
in my gym, we're practicing shots now that I never would have practiced before. I mean, I've been coaching a long time, and it's just very different. My players who are now retired, and I'm talking about, guys that I coached in high school in the 80s, if they could come back and see what we're doing, they were like, they'd be shocked. We did not do this in the late 80s.
Yeah. Judy, can we welcome our friend Gerard Hector to the show, please?
Oh boy, here we go. Before we do, we should probably talk Nets. Not that Gerard can't talk about a lot of things, but he is our Nets correspondent. They are.
Here we go. What are you? Here we going, Coach?
I know you're being sarcastic. Hey, Gerard, Durant's back for the next game.
He was back last night.
Oh, he did play last night, and they lost.
Yeah.
So they're 5-6 on the year.
Their problem, as we know, is defense. That everyone's pointing to the Kyrie thing as like the story, and that's a story in of itself because everyone is nosy and wants to know what the personal issue is. But that Kyrie's not going to help their problem. Their problem is stopping people from scoring. Like that is what they're struggling with right now.
But have they been? I looked today. I thought they were top 10 in defensive rating. But is that because of the first 3 or 4 games?
First 3 or 4 games, and they had a couple games in there where, like, the thing is, you can see it in spurts where they play it, and then for some odd reason, they just have these like complete sort of like mental breakdowns where it's like, what are you even doing right now?
Same as the Clippers.
Never played defense before in your life. It's like, huh?
Same as the Clippers. The Clippers look like world beaters, and they just get disinterested. It was the same problem as last year against Denver, up 3-1. They just get a little casual. But do you think that they'll figure it out?
I don't know. I think that, and Nash last night after the game in his presser, Steve's a pretty even keel guy. And he was visibly annoyed and pissed off at them last night.
Really? Ooh.
Look at David loves that.
What did that sound like?
He was just like, honestly, it doesn't matter about that. Like, you got to sit down and guard people. And it's funny to hear him say that because I'm like, but you didn't play defense.
Exactly. Right. And they know that. They played him on 2K. They know he didn't play. Well, when Phoenix, to be fair, and Henry knows this, I think Mike D's teams were like 15th in the league on defense.
Yeah.
Right. But they got beat up in the playoffs a little bit. And I thought he got a false. I thought it was an unfair moniker that they put on that. They were fine on defense. They were just so amazing on offense that we had to look at their defense. The Nets could be the same. The Nets offense can be incredible. How's LeVert doing with the fit?
LeVert's playing well. Like he's gotten himself together and is like seeming to understand what they're doing. I think I mentioned this one of the most recent times we were talking, and I said, part of it is learning how to play with superstars, right?
Right, for sure.
That takes some time. And for some reason, defensively, I'll watch. Harris in particular, sometimes TLC, they struggle when Durant's on the floor, locking his one-on-one on his guy. Whether it be that depth perception-wise, they can't tell something. Because again, in a couple of games, Kevin talked to Joe, and it's like, look, if my guy picks up his dribble inside the three-point line, you don't need to come over and help me. Like, I got it. And I think part of it too is they've never played with somebody as long as he is, right? So like, if it looks like the guy got past him, he probably isn't past him because he sticks his arm out. And now, it's like, so it's learning those kinds of things. And again, as you know, coach, you need time. And there is no time because they're not practicing. It's literally, guys are being shuffled in and out. And that's the thing that's happening. But that's happening across the league, right? And we can't keep saying it's early because we're going to get to 20 games soon. And 20 games is a point where you say, okay, this is kind of who you are now, 20 games, right? So they need to start figuring some things out.
Well, I would only add this, and that is we'll see what kind of coach Nash is, because you're right, Gerard, that 20 games is a pretty good indication. But we do have examples, like, for example, when Spoelstra went 11-30 and then flipped it to 30-11, right? Like, there are stories like that where teams, last year in the bubble with Phoenix. So, all right, Steve, you've got this collection of talent. They are enigmatic. Durant on his own has an issue. We know Kyrie, and then LeVert, who knows how he's going to fit in. Could he be a star on his own team? Jimmy Butler, situation. Like, you got to do some coaching and ego managing coming up, right? Mm-hmm. And then you also have you tell me, the media spotlight, guys, isn't the same when you can't be there in person, sticking your microphone. Yeah. I remember I was with Henry, actually. I walked away from him. I walked on the court during the NBA Finals, and I talked to Udonis, and I had not talked to him all season. This was this was year 4 of the threesome with Bosh and Wade and LeBron. And he said, Coach, I love these guys like they're my brothers, for sure. But it has been very hard. And what he meant is everything else involved playing with superstars. Brooklyn isn't going through that right now because no one is there. Not just fans, but no reporters in their face all the time. It's only going to get hotter, not colder. Especially this might be helpful that they're not winning so much. If they get hot, and then we all have a vaccine, and you guys can start going to games again. Yeah. Like, there's going to be so much attention. I don't know how well built they are to handle that.
But you know what's so interesting there, Coach? Like, the idea, media, and the intensity and the hotness, and there's certainly truth to that, right? And Henry, you can speak to this too. It's certain reporters in New York, right? It's Berman at the Post. It's certain guys and what they say and what they do. If you're on these Zoom calls and you can tell how many people are when you do the gallery view and it's like, 2 or 3 sheets of people. It's like, all right, nobody asked them any hard questions, like not a soul. The only hard question or annoying question they get asked is, even though Nash has said it, we're not going to talk about what we've been talking to Kyrie about. People will somehow go the roundabout way of asking, so what did Kyrie say? But otherwise, nobody's asking them any difficult questions. So I don't really know what all this oh my God, the questions are so hard. I'm like, not really.
Are you saying it's a seditious conspiracy?
Listen, the problem is these dudes spend too much time on their phones, and it's like, dude, just decompress for a while, log off of that shit and go.
Oh my God, Gerard, you're the angry old man.
I know. I'm turning. I am the angry old man. It happens.
I'll tell you what I feel like I'm seeing on the screen is all right, David and I have been talking about this for years, but let's say you want to build something with blocks and there are little kids in the room. Some kids like to build, I think there's an age development thing, 5, 6, 7, you build up a wall, 2, 3-year-olds come and just wipe it out. right? So defense in the NBA is building the wall and offense is wiping it out, which means if there's any hole in the wall, like if anybody makes a mistake, that's where the ball is going to go, right? Because these are sophisticated players. They recognize these things. And so I feel like in this year's NBA, like, scoring is psychologically pretty simple. Just find a hole, right? Whereas the defense means like all these interlocking parts, right? And like I feel like, or I wrote that story about Kyle Lowry. I feel like he's like just recognizing everything, right? I have a hunch that the pandemic and the shutdown and maybe you got a little worse sleep and maybe you had a little more alcohol than usual and on, the stress, maybe a little stuff of seditious conspiracy, like, like all these things are happening. And I feel like maybe now, like you're talking about Joe Harris maybe isn't quite recognizing how to respond properly to Kevin Durant's man picked up his dribble, right? Like, I think that's happening league wide at a little bit higher rate than most years, right? Maybe some, training camp was short, on and on, but like, I feel like there's a little bit more mental error, and it comes up more on the defensive end where it's just a more tricky riddle of construction rather than just mowing people down.
Yeah, no, I think you're dead on. And we're going to see strange things sort of happening this whole season, right? Like the blowouts, the crazy scores, literally everybody's beating everybody on, yes, in any season that happens, but I think we're going to see more of that this year just because teams are just weird and weirdly constructed, and dudes got to sit out because of COVID protocol, and who the hell knows?
Yeah, it'd be stupid if someone before the season literally went through every game of the schedule and picked that would really be dumb. I've done actually pretty well. I've only messed up on the Raptors, and they're just shooting way below what I thought they might shoot.
Yeah,
I still like them, but they're the only team I really missed on badly so far. The Spurs are interesting too. Still, I like San Antonio, but yeah, it's what Henry and both of you nailed it. It's the strangest of seasons for these guys. And talking to the players, they're coming fast and furious. There's no break.
None.
I think the league should have. It would have been cool after every month everyone gets 10 days off. Yeah. And then you have to quarantine again. Like just every month we build in 10-day quarantine. Let's make sure we don't keep spreading it out because we are on the precipice of, right now it's just one game. What if it's 2 games and 3 games, and then it's a mess.
We've been reading this stuff where Adam Silver, apparently in the Board of Governors call in December, let them know January will be the worst month. Right? Like, and so they are already expecting, and we talked about this before, which is why they don't have a second half of the schedule, year schedule picked out, because they know we're canceling a bunch of games this month for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And with these games coming so fast and furious, like, as much as these guys love playing basketball, they're probably like, God damn, like, when are we going to get a break? I think a lot of them they can't wait for the All-Star break because there's going to be no All-Star game. I think they're going to have like maybe a week off. Like, it's going to be paradise to have no basketball responsibility for 7 days.
True. It's true. There's
I'm
a lot
still down for like just friggin' sit your Kevin Durant's 12 games a year scheduled. Actually, I should have used a Sixers example because get Tyrese Maxey some starts, right?
Yeah.
Like put it on a schedule. I really think it's a solution here.
Well, you're right, Henry. It should have been a shorter season, right? They should have definitely gone to the 50 game. I mean, that would have been perfect. You're playing what, twice a week? Maybe 3 times, probably twice.
Or play as many games you're playing and play the cheese man more. He's entertaining. He's entertaining. Is he not, Gerard? Did he play this?
He didn't play last night.
He's so fast.
But he's good. I think Steve's also, they're tinkering a ton with their lineups. Like last night was like the 7th or 8th different song. I mean, he's just like literally mixing and matching and seeing what works because he doesn't have time in practice to see which lineups work. I'm just going to throw it out in the game and see what happens. And it's like, okay.
All right, before we get to any talk of seditious conspiracy, I do want to ask you guys, I know Henry did. Gerard, did you see the Steph Curry early third quarter pass against the Clippers from the left side of half court, left hand to Damian Lee in the corner?
It was
pretty good.
I've seen on a basketball court.
Long pass, but did you see who made the play? Not the pass, but the play? Was it Draymond Green?
Yeah.
In that corner. It was just beautiful.
Well,
they were kind of in a zone. Zubac and I forget the other one. I think it was Pat Bev were kind of closing in on Curry. Everyone is I mean, Kennard maybe it was always getting closer to Curry, draws everyone. And then he threw that long bomb, man. That was amazing.
But David, how does he know? Like, I mean, I saw you pointed that play out to me, and I watched it a couple of times. So Draymond's like, down like the post area, and Steph's coming on the far side, and somehow they both know this is what's happening, right? Is it just because it's open?
It's something you practice. It's a read where if you've got a guy in the wing or corner, and there's only one guy over, because everyone was shifted over to Curry. Yeah, you kind of back screen that or pin him in.
There's like a 3/4 of a second where Draymond's like, boom, screen, boom, pass, and just like, oh, you guys got screwed.
but most players in Curry's position were with two hands over their head and wing it like an outlet pass. That's how long the pass was.
Oh, so long, yeah.
But he did it one hand. We work. I mean, every good coach now is always doing one hand passing. I learned that in the '80s. We had a Russian team in town, Russian national team. So I learned from them. I've been doing one hand drills since. Actually, I did it in high school myself. Not that long of a pass. And then as a coach, we did it long. But still, that was on the money. Yeah, that was fun.
What's so hard about it? Is it why is that so hard?
Well, first of all, it says weak hand.
Yeah.
Right. So not everyone can do that with their weaker hand. These guys do have bigger hands than the average person. But normally, you try throwing a baseball with your weak hand, you'll look funny. If you grew up playing baseball like I did, I still can throw a baseball with my weak hand, and I'm ambidextrous. I don't have the same rhythm. It's not the same motion. There's not. I mean, Lamelo Ball can make that pass. Trae Young can make that pass. But a lot of wings can't, and big guys can't. A lot of guards can't. Yeah, it's something you practice all the time, though, for sure.
You brought something up interesting, Coach, talking about Draymond. Did you guys see his post game after last night's game?
No, I heard about it. Tell me about it.
Fantastic. So
I heard it's amazing.
About sort of like basketball Twitter, essentially, right? Like, why are these sort of things that people talk about? And like Draymond in a very casual way is basically like, well, that's because most people don't know shit about basketball. And it was really a great sort of like breakdown into talking about, like, again, why the average person does not understand the game of basketball, right? If you're looking at box scores and points, rebounds, and assists, okay, like that tells you some things, but it tells you literally nothing about what Draymond does and the value he provides to a basketball team. That play you talked about, Coach, in specific is perfect. That doesn't show up anywhere. You can't measure that unless you're like in tune to watching it. And he's like, the first thing is people have to admit what they don't know, but nobody's willing to do that. So you'll never know about basketball. And it was a pretty cool thing. Check out Anthony Slater of The Athletic. He's the beat writer for the Warriors. It's in his Twitter feed. It was pretty cool.
All right. So you're our Draymond Green of this group. You're smarter than us. Draymond is a very, very brilliant guy. He has a long career, by the way, in broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
He's the next Barkley.
Maybe the new Chuck. Yeah.
He doesn't have to do it. He can do a lot of things, but he would be must-see TV to talk about because he knows the game so well too. But we don't know for sure about a lot of things regarding what happened last week. But I got to get your sense of what the hell happened Wednesday. Now that we see a lot of video wasn't out at first. And we're starting to see a lot more video in the Capitol uprising, whatever. What did it look like to you, Gerard?
I mean, honestly, like it looked like psycho people who support an autocratic regime deciding, what would be a good idea? Let's go to the Capitol and like try to take it over. Like this is some kind of movie or whatever. And honestly, look, it's all stuff that was incited by their leader, right? Like it's like a cult, right? About like, remember that dude from Waco, David Koresh, like all these people, like this is what they do. They have their charismatic leader who says these things that whips them up and gets them feeling a certain kind of way. And now it's like, all right, cool. I'm going to go, strap a suicide bomb to my vest because it's in my jacket. It's a good idea. I mean, cool. That's what you want to do. I'm not down with that, right?
Super cool.
I don't follow anybody who would make me want to do something like that, but okay. I mean,
that is what radicalization is.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Judy sent me a story this weekend because I had to activate Judy as legal consultant because a lot of legal issues have arisen out of this, and I need to be informed. Thank you, Judy, for being like on the spot, like legal consultant. But she sent an article in the New York Times that I think it's from Saturday about a history of sedition in the US. And there have been a handful of instances, right, of like, people storming the Virginia State House or this and that, right? But and I am not an expert here. Ooh, we should get Carl Sudler back on the show to talk about this. But
Yes, we should. I've been following him on Twitter.
It looks to me like so basically this is do armed people want to like take overthrow the US government? Like, and you think, yeah, sure. I guess every power has had a history of some of that, right? For any kind of reason. Maybe you're upset about this, maybe you're upset about that. But no, in this article, and again, I don't know that it was exhaustive, it's always the same motivation. It's a multiracial government. Like, sedition in the US, according to this article and my amateur reading of it, like, there has not been another motivation for sedition. It's just like, no, like, there are people, I like, this is where America is giving us all a big old lesson right now, right? And like how things really operate. But yeah, this people are gonna get their guns and go take over the Capitol. It's so far been like, it's not gonna be run by whites anymore. That's been what's motivated it.
100%, Henry, and it's been proven. In our text chat we have, I dropped that little video in over the weekend about what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina, all those years ago in the 1800s, right? It is the recognition of the white majority that the government no longer looks exclusively like them, right? This is what perpetuates this type of behavior. And Trump and his bully pulpit of Fox News and all these things, right? It's no secret that they use people like AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, right? These are their people that they keep putting up the bullseye on because that subconsciously triggers something in the brain. It's like, oh wait, that doesn't look like me. She has a turban on. This or this thing. It's like, whoa, calm down. But no calm.
It's gonna be fine. Like our Maxine Waters world is not going to ruin your life. I promise. Like,
right, exactly. But it fires them up, and it's so interesting when you started reading all these pieces about what was going on. What I find fascinating is, what we hear so much is like it's about the rural white person, right, who's like not privileged and advantaged or whatever. Nah, it ain't. Take a look at a lot of the people who were going to the Capitol. These are people. A woman on a private jet flew from Texas to go there. Like, these are people who have means, and this is actually what they want, right? The people who are in power use the rural whites as their shield to actually get what they want done, and it's fucking brilliant. But again, as the masses, we don't see it.
Wait, did you see the family that owns a big grocery store chain in New Orleans? Some of them were there on video, the whole thing. So then on Twitter, everybody's like, oh, well, we're going to go to like the other grocery store chain in New Orleans. They're like, no, those guys gave a whole bunch of money too. It's like,
so in our last minute, this can lead into maybe Wednesday. There are some divestment now coming. There's talk of it anyway from major, gigantic companies and billionaires, which leads us to the owners. What's going to happen, Henry, you think, with the owners?
Look, there's a whole knot of very deep-pocketed people who've been very cozy with Trump and the NBA and the police unions and Wall Street. And it's hard to look in there. Like, I don't really want to name any names without like more homework, because they're covering their tracks pretty well here. But yeah, I mean, if I were interested in Black Lives Mattering, like, I would not partner with people who are billionaires running NBA teams, right? Like, because they are partnered with the crazy right-wing police unions, right? Like, in many cases, etc. So yeah, watch your back, y'all. Like, these billionaires are out there, like, and if it's starting to look like it's bad to be cozy with Trump, like, okay, separate. Let's see it. But somebody don't tell me.
Henry, I know I mean, I don't know if you know, maybe you do. Wright Thompson. Happy Van Winkle book came out, but he's got a new project he's working on that he couldn't say a whole lot about, but it's right up our alley, where he's digging into the millionaires, the billionaires, and the banks, and how this stuff's all connected. I can't wait. It'd be so good.
Before we go, did anyone see Tiger documentary? The one on Tiger Woods? I haven't seen it.
I did. I saw part one. It's 2 parts. Part 1 was out Sunday, and part 2 is next Sunday.
How was it?
I mean, it's fascinating. I will leave it. It's fascinating.
Good. I'm a fan.
So check it out.
Good stuff.
All right. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Gerard. Thank you, David. See you guys.